You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yeah. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move, there ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind. And when I space out, I see the possibilities unfolding the way that I want. That you showed up was written in my palm. You
Sorry, there we go. Hello, and welcome back to the Oola Corner, where we discuss and share all things Oola. So what is Oola, you ask? Well, Oola is a made-up word. It comes from the French word Oola la, and we talk about living a life of awesomeness. The word Oola was coined by two amazing guys, Dr. Troy, the Oola guru, and Dr. Dave, the Oola seeker, and they are now embarking on a quest to help people find balance in an unbalanced life. So Oola is about living a life of balance and greater purpose. It's about recognizing where you are in 7 key areas of your life, setting goals and action steps so that you can grow and live the life of your dreams. My name is Coach Mona, and I am a certified Oola Life Coach. And what I want to do is to challenge you to dream again. Today, I am here with my fellow Oola coach and transformation strategist, Coach Deanne, and we are going to talk about relationships. So whenever we talk about relationships, we think about the relationship to our spouse or our partner, our children, extended family, maybe our friends, our colleagues, our neighbors, but we rarely think about what I believe to be the most important relationships of them all. Your relationship to yourself. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Deanna is passionate about self-love and self-care, and she uses these two simple, but yet so loaded and difficult strategies to coach women back to their beautiful, radiant selves. Welcome, Deanna. I'm so excited to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I mean, life has happened to me just like it has to pretty much everybody, right? And so, when I've looked back over the years and looked at some of the trauma and the abuse and just different things, which I don't really need to go into the whole long story because really it's a part of my past, but it's not who I am. But the point is that when you go through these things, you really start to lose yourself. And I feel like a lot of people have done that. A lot of people feel like they don't know who they are, they don't know what their purpose is. They are just going through the motions and the cycle and calling it living, and it's really not living. And I believe for people who are like me, and that's the people I work with, is women who have experienced trauma and abuse in their life and have tried to come out of that situation but feel like they still aren't whole. Well, I help them to get back to their beautiful and free self. That's what you
Wow.
deserve. We all deserve that, right? So, and as Ula states, we're all designed by God for greatness and a purpose. And I think that the foundation of that and where that starts is learning yourself and loving yourself. And so that's how I
Absolutely.
work with women.
Oh, absolutely. I think we're living a life, but in many cases, we're actually just repeating old patterns and habits that, we may or we may not even be aware that we have. And I've seen that in my own life as well. Every day I learn something new about my own journey and where I am and where I'm going. But the one thing is that you're just not aware. Like you go from A to B to C and you think that you're living life, but it's actually just following your habits. It's not questioning, it's not, being aware, it's not living intentionally. So that's been a true eye opener for me in joining Oola and working Oola, is that intentional living, bringing that awareness into my everyday life, to the smallest things, down to, I always challenge people, like, which leg do you put first when you put your pants on in the morning? People don't even, a lot of times know what to answer that. So I challenge them, well, tomorrow put the opposite leg in first, because you want to become aware of, your habits.
Right. Same thing with brushing your teeth. Trying to brush your teeth with your opposite hand. If you do it while you're reading something on your mirror, some love note that you wrote to yourself, they work in tandem, because when you're brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, you're really you're in scientifically you're in your prefrontal cortex. You're thinking about what you're doing. And so you're
Right.
not stuck in that subconscious mode. And when you're in here, anything else you do is being sounded into here. It moves from here to here. And
I
that's
love
that's the
that.
work, right? That's the work.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
like to
no,
start it just first thing in the morning or
yeah,
whenever you
no,
brush
that's
your teeth.
that's
Some
that's
people,
brilliant. I think that's a challenge for all our listeners out there, to tomorrow or the next time you brush your teeth, you know, brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand. So why do you think that we are so inclined to remove ourselves from our true beautiful selves? Like, what is it? Where does it start? If that's even,
well,
possible to say. Everybody has their story, right?
right. And I do think it starts in various different places for people, but I do actually think it starts in childhood. And we all know now the amount of inner work that we have to do as we are in adulthood to undo the parenting, whether that came from your parent or other authority figures in your life, wherever it came from, we have to undo that. When we grow up, we are conditioned into what we think is real, or what we think we should believe, or how we think the world operates. And the fun thing is about this, you'll notice this as a young adult when you leave your parents' house. So you move into a new environment and you think all the families in the world do things the way your family does. That just is normal. That's the way people do it. And you may have spent some time with your friends and things like that, but it tends to be that you keep your circle inside of a place that everybody kind of does a similar thing. Your friends are in your school with you, or your friends are in your church with you, and you guys kind of still have that same culture. Then you move out of that and you start to see other things that go on. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really good example, and it's funny and it's light, but it'll resonate. I come from New Orleans. I live in New Orleans. I still live in New Orleans. But for 4 years of my life, I moved to California. I was an adult. Okay. I don't remember how old, but I want to say maybe 30. Okay. I can't remember the exact age. But so when we moved, you know, it was a culture shock. I hadn't traveled a lot. I come from a large family. We didn't have a lot of money to go places. So, like, it was everything we could do when I was 14, the first time we went to Disney. I mean, it was just, that was a big, huge thing. So we didn't go a lot of places, you know? So when I moved to California and I went to a restaurant and I was like, oh, I mean, I'm taking in the scenery and the people. And I went to a restaurant and I had a beer and I go, okay, thanks. I appreciate it, but I didn't finish it. Can you give me a go cup? And they were like, a what? I'm like, I'm not finished my beer. Can I get a go cup? They're like, you can't go with your beer. And I was like, wait, what? I was in this bubble, right? We drink, we walk down the street with a drink. We don't have that law here. And I
Right.
mean, everywhere else has that law. So it was, you don't know what you don't know. So when you get out of your house and you move into a new environment, you're exposed to other people's beliefs and other people's realities. And you start to realize that what you have gone through and the way you've been conditioned is not really real. And so I think that the self-love thing starts there. But I don't think that we necessarily all have childhoods where we lose love for ourselves. I think that happens through life and through
Right.
experiences. And, for me, where this happened was, I had some school experiences that made me question if I was worthy, right? And then as I moved into adulthood, I married my high school sweetheart who was abusive. And I lived in that relationship for 18 years. And I wasn't the one who ended it,
Wow.
So you start to have the again, let's go back to foundational belief systems. A marriage is supposed to last forever. Your children need a father figure in their life. Marriage is a sacred union. And so you don't end your marriage, you work on your marriage. You can always work it out. Well, that's not the case. And if you're not safe, you should not be staying in a situation. I don't
Yeah.
care. That's not love. That's not love that's happening in that situation. And no one is obligated to remain in that. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying people don't work on your marriage. We know if you're not working on your marriage, you're definitely working on your divorce. But your
Mhm.
marriage should be a safe space.
Absolutely.
So, that ended by, him having an affair and going off and saying, oh, I need more. I'm not fulfilled, whatever he needed. Um, I feel like that and trying to fight through that is a lot of where I lost myself. I lost
Mm.
respect for myself. I lost my own self worth. And
Wow.
really, ultimately, I thought that I I don't have it in me for me, and I don't think that I'll have it to give to anybody else. I love this person with my whole everything. I did.
Yeah.
I loved him. And so I was like, I just don't, there's nothing I don't have. I gave him the best of me, and that's done. And I have nothing left for anybody else. And again, I mean, there's no limit on the amount of love you can give or receive. So
Wow.
it's a fallacy, but I think for me, that's where I lost it. And I think there's probably a lot of people who are in that or a similar situation.
Absolutely. Wow. That's that's a lot. So 18 years and you give everything to this person. So did you feel like, your self-esteem kind of diminished throughout those 18 years, or was it that slap in the face at the end when he leaves that was like it?
No, it was gone way before the slap in the face.
Yeah.
You know, um, it was a, I mean, that might have been a straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But it was a process over a long time of the not just physical, but the emotional and mental abuse where I was devalued
Mhm.
or gaslighted in a sense of
Mhm.
making me think that I was the one that was going crazy, like what's wrong with you, you know?
Yeah.
And those traumas, they that's what they are. They're psychological.
Mhm.
And then, you know, that becomes internalized. And that's what we talk about, like this part of your brain that starts to um, believe and create habits around those beliefs. That's what's happening. Um,
Yeah.
the beauty of it all is that we can change it, you know? Just the way it can come into us is exactly the same way that we have to do the inner work
Yeah.
to flip the switch, and that's where the self love comes in.
Absolutely.
And
I couldn't
you know,
agree
and I have a
more.
process that I went through because that wasn't the only thing. You know,
Mhm.
unfortunately, that was not the end of the trauma. And you know, I've gotten to a point now, and this is when you know you've kind of worked through it. Is I've gotten to a point now where I can talk about it without crying every single time I talk about it. So,
Well, yeah,
you know,
that's a lot. That's a good step. That's a big step, actually. I uh, I haven't even gotten to the point of talking about, because gaslighting is something that I am extremely familiar with. It's it's looking back, I'm like, wow, like that's what really happened, and also by somebody very, very close, that you wouldn't think that this person would do something like that. This is somebody that is in your life to give you love, unconditional love, forever, but for that person to set conditions on the love, and then using gaslighting as a tool to put you in your place, from withdrawing emotionally to the list just goes on. And for me as well, even though I physically removed myself from the situation, it's only come to me this past year, and working really, really intentionally with Oola, that I am coming towards that step of actually self-love. Like, loving me is the most important. In Oola, we talk about the 7 F's, and then we set 7 or 3 goals within the 7 F's, and then we narrow it down to 7, and then we narrow that down to the Oola one goal that we want to achieve. And for 2021, my Oola one goal was to learn how to love and accept myself just the way I am. And that's something that I worked on this whole year. And I'm going to say, like, I'm in a good place, but it's a work in progress. It's something that you continue working on every day. It's not all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I love myself so much. it's
I'm so
it's
awesome.
yeah, it's a process. There's good days and bad days, and there's triggers that take you back 10 steps, and you got to work yourself back through it. But with that, would you mind sharing your process? Like, what is your process? What is it that you do? I would love to hear it.
Yeah, so with when you find yourself in this place, I found, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that step one, I have a few pillars that I like to go through. And the
Mm-hmm.
first one, even though we are talking about loving ourselves, it takes a little bit of a process to get to that. We can't
Yep.
just start with loving ourselves because it's taken a process to get us where we are. And so we got to unravel the process. And the first thing I feel that comes in that process is to forgive. And it's not just forgiving yourself, it's forgiving everyone who has harmed you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talk a lot about this when I do speaking engagements or in my coaching process, because it's very difficult for people to wrap their head around what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not absolution. We don't have the power to absolve somebody of their wrong actions.
Mhm.
We don't have that power, nor are we expected to condone an action. So, behind my divorce and going through that, which was a 7 year process. So, this is how you know you're living with someone who is, narcissistic and abusive, right?
Mhm.
In Behind that, a relative stepped in, a brother-in-law of mine stepped in and was, oh, I'm going to help out with the kids. I'll take your son under my wing. We like the same music. He can come to work with me sometimes, and my two kids are 2 years apart. So they were very close. And, just going through, just having them sometimes and being a little bit of a support system and a male role model. Well, that was not the case. That's not what happened. He manipulated and abused my kids as well. He introduced them to drugs and he wound up molesting my daughter. Now, that is a
Oh.
difficult sentence for me to say, okay? Because guess where that blame fell in my mind when I'm trying to do some of this work? I missed this. Now, there were
Mm.
signs, there were signals, there were things that I was trying to control. I knew he wasn't the person I needed to be around. But by that time, they were very close. And you have teenagers. And I don't know if anybody else has teenagers, but they are very difficult to make do what they should do.
Yep.
We try to help them and guide them as best we can. But guess what? They are very much strong willed little beings. And they don't understand sometimes that the decisions they're making are life decisions because they don't have that capacity. So in that situation, when that came all out, when everything came falling out, um, you know, I I had so much anger and resentment, so much blame going on, pushing that blame out to literally anybody and everybody. Um, my ex who left, which this probably would not have happened had he been there, regardless of whatever else was going on in our lives. He would have never allowed this person because he didn't trust anybody. So he would not have allowed it. To the person that I trusted, right? To anybody around that I felt like could have been partially responsible for not helping me in this situation. But the truth of the matter is that the person I was most angry at was myself.
Yep.
And I was deflecting all of that and living with that. And when Oola came into my life, which was a couple years after that, when Oola came into my life, I said, like I devoured it. I read the book. This was like in 2015. I read the book. I was like, oh my God, like this is it. This is amazing. Like everybody needs this in their life. And I
Mhm.
met them. They signed my book. I'm like, y'all need a coaching program. And I had been looking at some coaching programs up until then because of the health journey that I was already on and trying to take control of my health as just an area of life that I could get control over, right?
Yep.
And a lot of
Yeah.
people start there and that's great. I encourage it because it builds your confidence to move to the next area. But
Yep.
they didn't. So I got a health and life coaching certification from another institution just so that I could coach their framework and
Yeah.
incorporate their framework into my coaching because that's how much I immediately connected with it. So then we went to Palooza in 2016, which is their annual huge big experience where you go, you sit for 2 days and you just do the work. It's
Yep.
intense. So I went there, and in that experience, they talked about gratitude. And they talked about how you had to have gratitude in everything. And I won't give away the whole story for people who might not be 100% familiar. But one of the guys who founded Oola has a gratitude story that is very heart wrenching. And I was over here going, I don't have to be grateful for this.
Well, for anyone that is interested in hearing, Dr. Dave is actually going to be my guest next month on November 17th, sharing his gratitude story. So tune in on November 17th.
Awesome. Perfect. Glad I'm not giving it away. You guys listen to his story, and then when you listen to my story, you're going to understand why I had no business saying I don't need to be grateful. But I felt like in my situation, I was like that obstinate little 3-year-old going, "You can't make me." And after Dr. Dave actually coached me personally because he
Oh,
saw
wow.
me struggling with this, and this is an accelerator. It's not something that should be a blocker, but it was blocking me. And he came and coached me personally because he saw me. I was crying. I was a mess. And he did not go easy on me. He was very tender. Don't get me wrong. They are such empaths. I don't know how they do it, okay? But he goes, "You have to find it. You have to find a way to be grateful." And he'll tell you, I'm sure he remembers it because the next year I went back. I worked an entire year on gratitude, and this is how I came to forgiveness. Forgiveness was my way to gratitude, and I firmly believe that anybody who's been through this kind of trauma, forgiveness is your way to gratitude. So if you're going to show gratitude in everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, then you're going to have a lot of work to do to get to that gratitude. And the way to it, if you've been through trauma, is through forgiveness. And here's what forgiveness is: forgiveness is letting go and creating space in yourself so that you don't have the resentment and the anger taking up all of this space. It is the most freeing thing you will do. I can forgive a person for being a sick individual and never have them back into my life and understand that I can release that. It's now all on you. It's now all on that person. I no longer have to carry it.
Yeah.
The beginning of my forgiveness was I spoke with my kids because obviously I wanted to make sure that I got forgiveness from my kids, who miraculously hold nothing against me. If you want to see me start crying, okay, which I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna stay. They No, I am probably gonna do it because I can feel it. They are the miracles because they have no resentment and they did not blame me. And that's the miracle. And if I can get their forgiveness, then I can let go of all the other stuff. I can let it go. I don't need to live there. And so I did that. I released that with my husband. I released that with the abuser, the brother-in-law. I just released it. And the amount of internal and emotional space it created allowed the gratitude to pour in. It allowed me to say, yes, you know what? If I wouldn't have gone through that, I wouldn't know how my kids felt. I wouldn't have become a coach. I wouldn't have a mission to help other women who have been through this situation, and an even bigger mission to become a 6-figure giver and be able to create programs for people later in life. So there's so many programs around the impact, the time of impact. So, you have a 13-year-old who's going through this, or 14-year-old where you just figure out all of this has happened. And there's lots of support and programs out there. But unless you have really good insurance that pays for your mental health care, and you can find a mental health professional who is really in touch with this specific topic and area, there's no help for you as an adult. And unfortunately, this will come up over and over and over. My daughter became a teacher, and going through her courses, there's a mandatory course that you have to take so you can recognize this when you're teaching in your students, and you can be an advocate for your students. You're expected to be an advocate. And so, of course, it came up for her again in that course. And that course was so therapeutic, she took it 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
Because it was an amazing just release for her.
Wow. That just gave me goosebumps.
There was, she has 2 children. And when you have kids, this comes up again. When her husband did certain things and actions that reminded her or triggered her, it came up again. These people need a place to go over and over and over. And while I don't want to run a nonprofit, I want to fund a program that really focuses on that area. And they need to
Yeah,
focus on the parents too, because we don't have much support
absolutely.
anywhere.
I know there's no tools for the parents, is there really?
And so, and again, like I said, I want to be an advocate for that. I want to be an impetus behind it. And I want somebody who really knows what they're doing to run it because I won't know what to do in there.
Yep.
But, so I got off the subject a little bit, but here's the first step is forgiveness.
Yep.
And then the second step is gratitude. The third step is your internal dialogue. What are your soundtracks? What are the things that play in your mind day in and day out? How do you talk to yourself? What do you tell yourself? Oh, I suck. Oh, I'm a worrier. No, you're not. You're a warrior.
Yeah.
You're not a worrier. Don't call yourself. Whatever you call yourself, that's what you're going to be. Didn't Ford say it? Like, if say you can, say you can't, whichever one is true. That's a loose Henry Ford.
Yeah.
But the thing is that that's it. Your internal dialogue becomes, that's what you become. So the third step is putting that in check.
Hmm.
You can do it through mantras. You can do it through meditation. You can do it through visualization. Do all three. Really, everything, anything you do in that area is going to work. Put it on your
Yeah.
mirror. All the mantras all the things that you say to yourself that are negative, write an I am
Yeah.
statement to the opposite of it, tape it on your mirror, brush your teeth with your left hand, for me, because I'm right handed. Brush your teeth with your left hand and say the mantras, say the I am statements to yourself while you're brushing your teeth. Do it every morning. You don't believe me? It works. I know it
Oh,
sounds crazy.
no, it works. It works. Here's one thing though that I want to just put in there is like you have to remember how long it took you to get to the state where you are in your thinking. So you have to become aware, and you have to understand that saying the affirmations or doing the meditation for 2 days or 3 days or 3 weeks, it's not going to help. It needs to be an everyday dedication and intention that you set for yourself every day. And for me, I hear whatever you like what you're saying. I hear what you're saying so loud and so clear, and it resonates so much with me. And when it comes to the self-talk, I've told this story on here before, but I feel this is a good place to repeat it. I wrote down all my inner dialogue. I wrote it down. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I stuck it to the wall. And I lay on my bed. This was in my bedroom. Locked the door. Kids and husband outside. Nobody in there. I taped it to the wall, and I looked at it for like an hour, and I sat in it. Like I really, really sat in it. And I'm like, this is what I'm saying to myself. This is what I believe about myself. This is where I am in my life. I'm in my, 40s, and I'm still having these incredibly heavy thoughts like you're not good enough, you'll never amount to anything, you are ugly, you are unlovable, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too, like the list just went on and on and on and on. And then once I felt that I'd looked at it for long enough, I brought my husband in, and then I had him read it back to me and then ask me why are you too fat, why are you too ugly, why are you not good enough, why? And that process to me was it was a lot. And but it kind of got me to that point where I actually had to face in paper, in writing, and on, and listening to, having it said back to me what I was actually saying to myself every day. And it's like, you wouldn't say it to anybody else, would you? Like, challenge anybody to say what they say to themselves, to their children, or to just a perfect stranger on the road. You wouldn't even say it to a perfect stranger on the road, so why would you say it to yourself? It
I
was Go ahead.
I often ask people that question. I often say, if I don't even say if I would say it to my kids or my family. We often take family or our closest people for granted, and we say some horrible things to them. But if somebody else said that to your kid, what turns on? That mama bear is coming out, and
Mm-hmm.
it ain't little, right? So that's the way I like people to look at it. And I love your whys. I go through this with clients all the time. It's called the 5 whys, but a lot of times it's 10. Because we're not honest with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? You ask that first
Absolutely.
why do you feel like that? And you'll say, well, because, somebody hurt me. Well, why did it hurt?
Why? Mm.
Right? Because you can ask somebody, if somebody on the street or a stranger in a car did that to you, how would it affect you? Same exact thing. That would go away in seconds, minutes. It's gone because you don't care about that person or what they
Mm-hmm.
think or what they did. You're never
Yeah.
going to see them again, and they're never going to impact your life. So we know that what the person did is not the why. And
Yeah.
you got to get all the way down to the way it made you feel. And when you ask the why enough times, you'll get to the foundation. You'll get to the root. And the root is a
Yep.
way, way deeper than I was angry or he hurt my feelings. Well,
Mm.
it's way more than that. And so that is an amazing exercise. So I'm really glad you brought that up because why?
Yeah. No, exactly. And that as well is, I feel, in many ways, the driving force of the whole ULA framework. Like your why. Why are you doing this? Why would you want to improve in your life? Why would you want to live the life of your dreams? Why are you embarking on this new journey? Why? If you don't have that sound why, that we call it in ULA, we call it that hub, right? The center of the wheel, the center of your wheel that fuels everything else that you do. It's just so incredibly important. So on that, what is your why? What is the hub, Diana, that drives you every day? I'm curious.
Well, so obviously, family matters a lot to me. Otherwise, the impact of all of the things that have happened would not have impacted me as much. And when I went through forgiveness, then got to gratitude, then corrected my internal dialogue, it allowed me to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And taking care of myself proved to me that I actually loved myself. So you have 5 pillars
Wow.
there that you have to go through. And my hub is legacy, is what I would say my hub is. I think that it is um, combined with my spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
which creates a purpose. But the legacy part of it for me is that I want my family, I want my kids and my grandkids and future generations to understand what it means to live in a growth mindset, to not
Yes.
limit themselves and to not allow themselves to be put in a position where you will lose love for yourself.
Yeah. I
And
love
that's
that.
my goal. Yes, I want to help other people. I want to have this foundation or fund this foundation. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen because I
Yep.
know
Yep.
it's what I want and what I'm passionate about. And I have enough passion behind it because it affects my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I want my kids to have a place to go to and say, okay, I need help today, or pick up a phone. I don't know what it looks like. Maybe it's a retreat center. I don't know. But it needs to exist and it needs to
Yep.
exist in a large, large way. So, yeah, that's my why behind it. It's
Absolutely.
legacy for my family and for future generations. And I think if everybody starts there, the
Mm-hmm.
whole world is better.
Yeah.
If we take care of our families as the foundation, we don't work from the top down. We don't work for the government down. We don't expect teachers to give our kids the morals and the standards that they deserve. We
No.
work from the bottom up.
Yes.
And if we work from the bottom up and everybody works from the bottom up, then it's all better.
Yeah.
Now, will everybody do it? No. But Ula's trying to impact 1 billion lives in the next 7 years, and that's 1/7 of the population. And if 1/7 of this entire population, one out of every 7 people, is doing this,
Mhm.
the world is a better place. It looks very different than what it looks like now.
Can you imagine if 1 out of 7 people actually, truly, authentically loves and appreciate themselves from the inside out, not based on what clothes they're wearing or what house they live in or what car they're driving, but actually, truly inside themselves feels that genuine love and acceptance to themselves? That is so powerful.
Put it out there like this, too. If you love and accept yourself and you are truly rooted in that, does it matter if the next person has a lifestyle that you agree with or disagree with?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Because your love and acceptance is for you. So you're not judging somebody else, you're allowing them to be them and you to be you. And we
Hmm.
can still coexist and live together in a world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not what happens. We've gotten on bandwagons. I'm going to get off just 1 second. We've gotten on all, I'm not going to be specific. We've gotten on all these little bandwagons all over the place of, oh, we need to be aware and we need to support and we need to do this. And so what do? They just cause division somewhere else. They find it somewhere else. They're focusing on the
Hmm.
wrong thing. Yes, we need justice. Yes, we need equitable relationships. It starts with you.
Yes.
It starts with
Yeah.
you. So you have to put the focus here. Look at the man in the mirror. I think Michael
Hmm.
Jackson was on to something there, right?
Oh, yeah. If
It
you
starts
listen
with
to the
you.
song, it's actually, it's really good. Listen to the
It starts with
lyrics.
you. And then when
Hmm.
that goes, the rest falls into place on its own.
Hmm. And I love what we talk about in Oola, because what the Oola guys talk about, they say, imagine if you get to that point in yourself, like how you have worked through your trauma and gotten to where you are, and I am working through my trauma, but how the kids view me, how my kids view me, how a lot of my colleagues are very young and how they view me. And then that affects them. I've seen, without even saying a word, I've seen how, my kids have started meditating or have started journaling or have started, pick up a book that, I would have recommended, but they found it by themselves, or how some of my staff have, cut back on sugar and, started moving and leading a more healthy lifestyle. Like those small things, if I can make that and affect that and make that change, with just the few people around me, and then they again make that change with a few people around them, it's just so powerful, like the effect that we can have, first on your family, on your community, and then, on your country and on the world at large. And I just love the fact that I'm part of somebody that is starting to create, or something that is creating that positive change.
And what do we say? It's a ripple effect, right? Or
Hmm.
or I like even better the butterfly effect because you think that little whisper of a wing doesn't matter, but it changes stuff across all kinds of ecosystems.
Yeah.
So it is the small things that matter. We focus on big things and we have big visions. And we don't get the big visions done because we're so focused and overwhelmed on how to get the big vision done that we're not focusing on the little steps. Just take a step. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. 365 days a year, if you take three little bitty steps, you're 1,000 steps closer to where you want to be. And you look
Yeah.
back on that year and tell me there's not something different. I don't care how small
Yeah.
a step is. There's something different. You've
Yeah.
mattered, you've made change. You've created change, which creates momentum. You
Absolutely.
have to do it. You have to do
I
it.
know.
People are afraid. They think they need to take the big steps now. You need to take
Mm-mm.
very little baby steps.
It's about the teeny, teeny, tiny little steps, the ones that you take every single day.
Look, I'm
Just
not
one.
joking when I say I took an entire year
Mm-hmm.
to find gratitude. That one thing. It took me a whole year.
Yeah.
but it was worth every second of it, because
Absolutely.
the amount of space that it cleared up and the energy raised, the release of that just elevates my vibration. It elevates my energy. And guess what? Now I'm playing in a different area. And
Yep.
now different people are going to see that and be attracted to it, because that's how energy works. It
Yep.
likes to play on the same field.
Absolutely. I love this. This is awesome. And Phil dropped the comment saying we need to continue this conversation, and I really think we do. But for today, if anybody is feeling your energy, Deanna, and wants to reach out, how is a way that they can reach out and talk to you more about this?
Okay. So my business is Deanna's Wellness Nook. So Deanna Wellness, I'm pretty much Deanna Wellness everywhere, because my last name is entirely too long to figure out. And I went ahead and complicated it and hyphenated it and all the things. So Deanna Wellness. So if you go to deannawellness.com, that's my website. You'll see all kinds of ways and booking discovery calls. I think coaching is something everybody needs to avail themselves of. And now we are in a position where it is available to anybody, pretty much anybody at any income level. Because you can have a coach in your pocket where you can kind of do the work on your own, or you can have a one-on-one situation where they could work with one of us.
Yep.
And it can go from there. And we have programs, I feel like, in the coaching industry that are affordable. So there's the website. I also am on social media, and I'm Deanna Wellness everywhere on social media. Instagram is where I probably spend a little bit more time than other places, but I am on Facebook second, LinkedIn and Twitter kind of, and then I'm on Clubhouse. So, and I do really enjoy Clubhouse. We have a Clubhouse that I help moderate every weekday morning. It's at 8 o'clock Central Time. And then I do one that I do on Thursdays. We might be changing the time. Right now it's at 6 p.m. Central, but it might be 6:30, because I think it's looking like it, after testing it a little bit, is better. And that is a tools for trauma. And so that room really focuses in on not only the framework that we use in Oola, but drilling down like I do in my coaching, adding some additional steps and additional tools for people who have specific triggers.
Right.
And
Very
I think that that's a necessary component to add to our coaching framework if you're going to, specialize in this area. And that's why I call myself transformation strategist, because everybody's triggers are different, and we strategize to find the things that work the best for you to help you transform in the you that is inside that needs to come out. We're all magic, right? I feel like we all
Yes.
have that in us. So anyway, I keep going. That is the place. Deanna Wellness, just Deanna
Deanna
Wellness. You
Wellness.
can find it anywhere.
Anywhere, Deanna Wellness. And as for me, if you guys want to reach out to me, the best way is to find my page on Facebook, which is Coach Mona Ostrowski. And I believe there's also a QR code on the bottom here that you can use to find me and my Facebook page. So again, for everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Deanna, thank you so much for sharing your story. I love listening to your transformation, and I can't wait to do this again. So thank you so much, and remember, be grateful, have faith, and go find your Oola life. Bye bye.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement that explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner. turn me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky